Welcome to F&I Performance Podcast, powered by Sym-Tech Dealer Services, your source for everything F&I. Real talk, real experts, real results. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, F&I Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the F&I Performance Podcast, sponsored by Sym-Tech Dealer Services. That's my best radio announcer voice. I've been practicing, and I hope that's cool with you guys. Today I have two very special guests with me. I have both Zoe and Kendel with me, and we get to talk about my favorite topic, training and development. So we're going to have a lot of fun today. Thank you, ladies, for taking the time to jam with me today.
Thank you for having us.
Hey, before we kind of kick off the podcast, I think it'd be fun to start off with a couple origin stories. So, Zoe, I'll start with you. How did you get started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry?
Oh, geez. Jason, I've been in this business for just over 25 years. I was going to college and I needed a summer job. So my mom actually worked at a body shop. And so she got me hooked up at UAP Auto Parts, and I was a parts driver. So they called us the Napa Kittens, and they were very strategic, hiring these young girls to deliver the auto parts. And unfortunately, I didn't go back to school because I started getting, some more pocket money than usual. And I got in the auto that way and then went from there I worked at a few car dealerships, 3 in the total of 25 years. And the rest is history. After I'd finished my element in my car dealerships, whether it was the service department, parts driver, F&I, and what have you, I got in contact with Sym-Tech because they were one of my providers as a previous business manager. And I heard such a great news. I knew a few people that worked there, and I've been with Sym-Tech now 4 years.
Wow,
awesome.
That's really cool. Though I do find a lot of our journeys into this industry is quite similar. We kind of tumble our way into it. The money is usually what kind of gets us stuck into it, and then it kind of gets into your blood, and then it's really hard to get it out. Once you're kind of in automotive, you're in it. Kendel, for yourself, how did you get started in the business?
Yeah, so kind of similar to Zoe. I graduated university in 2010. So it was time to get a big girl job. And it was a funny story, actually. My father was in an Acura dealership talking to the sales manager, just talking about family and what's going on. And he happened to mention that I was looking for a job. And at the time, that sales manager had met me a few times and said, tell her to bring her resume in. I think she'd be great in sales. So sure enough, brought my resume in, started selling cars, did that for about 2.5 years, and then moved into the business office for another 2.5 years, and then joined Sym-Tech in 2015. So it's been a good 10 years now.
That's so cool. You know what? It's cool to be able to work a couple different positions, at the dealership, because you get that. I call that operational experience. And I find when you have that, training and developing someone from the kind of been there, done it, is far, far different than just training straight out of a manual. I mean, I've had the opportunity to meet many, many different trainers, over my career, and you can definitely tell immediately the ones that have been there in the trenches, had done the work. Boy, their knowledge just comes from a deeper place, and I feel like it's so much better for the end user. So speaking of training and development, because that is, excuse me, it is going to be the topic of our podcast today. There are just so many different training techniques, and I'm always finding out about new ones, which is really kind of exciting, right? I'm curious. I want to kind of start off for you guys is, what are some of the different training techniques you use? And, from your experience, because I find everyone has a different opinion on this, is which one is most beneficial? Zoe, I'll start with you, and then Kendall will ask you the same question.
Absolutely. I'm finding that what's really beneficial is not only like we offer as trainers or people or developing or business managers, is that there's so many different techniques, whether it's virtual training we offer. And, it seems like we're talking to you through, our Zoom calls and things like that. And more people are doing that. Older people are getting out of their comfort zone. And that's the whole thing, is getting out of your comfort zone, figuring out new ways of what's new and upcoming and riding that wave. With also the Zoom training, we have in classes at our head office in Richmond Hill, as well as the other big advantage I feel is the fact that we're developing and we're learning from each other. So not only we have multiple different stores that we go to and different brands, it's not just structured to one type of brand, but we're still learning as district managers from our business managers, because we've all been in their shoes. So the fact is that they're giving us tips and we're learning from them and they're learning from us, and we're able to exercise the new thoughts and training habits to our other stores, which is very unique.
That is really unique, and I actually think probably one of the most beneficial ways to create kind of a program, right? I mean, I find, let's face it, guys, there's some training programs out there that hasn't changed in 35 years, yet the industry and the customer has changed so much, since then. So it's really cool to hear from a company that their training and their development programs are kind of this almost like an organic organism that's kind of adapting and adjusting based on the information and feedback you guys are getting. That's super cool. Hey, Kendel, for yourself, again, like I said, a lot of different techniques. Everyone's kind of got a different opinion as far as what's more beneficial. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. So, the one thing that I know our business managers absolutely love, and we do it as well, is role play. You say those two words and they look at you like, oh no, really again? But I do find with role play, even if they're knocking it out of the park and doing a fantastic job, when you role play with somebody, you can really find an area of opportunity. And then at the end, it's kind of that moment where, you know what, you're right. And I do see the value in it. And you know what, it goes back with anything, with repetition. Look at these professional athletes. Just because they won the hockey game last night doesn't mean they're not going to go to practice tomorrow morning and do drills, right? And that's the example I often use with my business managers is, guys, we have to role play because this is what's going to keep you at the top of your game. So role play is definitely my favorite technique, and I know Zoe can speak to that as well. Product knowledge as well. Even if they've been selling our products for a number of years, again, you start to lose things. So if we can continue to practice with them and do product knowledge tests, knowledge is power. And that's what I often say to them, right? So if you're trying to handle an objection, the more you know about the product, the better you're going to be able to overcome that. So those are my two favorite. So,
and it all comes down to practice, right? I mean, it really is. First dealership I worked at, they had a horrible technique, but it worked. Was every single morning, as a salesperson, you had to come in and role play with a sales manager and execute the meet and greet verbatim before you can hit the floor. Now, this was in the U.S. Laws are a little different and get away with a few more things. But if you couldn't hit it that morning verbatim, you got sent home. That was it. Okay, you're not allowed to sell today. You're off, And I used to hate my manager for making me do this. I mean, the two words come out, role play. I'm one of those people that kind of squeeze into the background. I'm like, no, But now I'm older, I'm a little wiser, got a few more years of experience under my belt, and you know what? I learned so much from just the repetition of role playing and practicing with the coworkers that, I probably got more benefit in doing that, than I ever did anything else. Now, the kicker is getting the staff to want to role play. I'm curious if you guys have any tips or tricks on this, because that's the question I normally get asked, right? They're like, Jay, I'm going to get my team to do this role playing, but I get half of them want to do it, and then I get kind of the older guys that have been around for a while. They're kind of F off. I'm not going to do this, How do you...
I make it fun.
Okay, Zoe, let's start with you, Zoe, and then Kendel, I'll ask you too. So, Zoe, how do you get the team to role play?
Absolutely, because it can be tough at times, right? It's like pulling teeth, but at the end of the day, I try and make it fun for them, right? And I set expectations. I said, I use tangible items or things to do, like just to get it out of the way at first. Like, okay, tell me how you're going to sell me this cell phone. Just things like that they can connect to. Because that's the whole part of us in this auto business is we always try and find a little piece of something to connect to that person. So with us in a training technique as well is, we need to connect to our business managers. So having them, and I always say, okay, just watch me, learn from me. I'll go first and get that out of the way. And by us going first, I think it takes the anxiety and the unknown for that person or that person we're working with to understand what we're doing and to say, hey, it's not so bad. Do I sound like a robot? No, I don't. I will say to them, all my business managers as well, I always leave them with every single day, you know what, if you're feeling you haven't had a deal in a couple days and you want to be on your A game, just bring out your notes in your book and just read it in the morning before you actually start your shift or you're on shift or in your downtime. Just read it over quickly. We still do it. We're still learning ourselves. So, there's times, we haven't been able to do a show me or sit in a deal and we've got to do it as well. So it's like, we're all in the same boat here. We're here to help you.
No, and I think that's key. I mean, I think for a trainer, I mean, definitely if I'm going to hire a trainer, it's something that I'm looking for is someone that's willing to, do it themselves. They would say like, look, I know this is uncomfortable. All right, let me jump up there. Let me kind of fumble my own way through it so that we can show that we can all be collectively uncomfortable with each other, but doing it together and the reputation of doing it together, we all get better, right? Kendel, for you, any tips and tricks on how you get a team to role play?
Yeah, so kind of the same as Zoe. I mean, it's always, they don't want to do it at first. So I kind of jump in and say, listen, I'll be the business manager, you be the customer, right? So, and that tends to calm their nerves a little bit. And then what I'll also say is, hey, listen, if we can do this role play and you can be at 100%, we don't have to do it next month. Right? So, and I mean, 9 times out of 10, they're all around that 94, 95%, which is fantastic. But it just goes to also show that they're not 100%. So there is some room to work on some things, right? And then, again, it's, if you don't want to role play, then I'm going to sit in on your turnover, which we end up doing as well. But some of them are just more comfortable knowing that we're sitting in the corner and they're having the one-on-one with the customer versus us sitting right in front of them. So it's really just finding their comfort level and working with them. And the other thing is I always say, I don't want you to do it how you think I want to hear it. I want you to do it how you're doing it with your customers. Right? Because that's the biggest thing. Because if they try to do it the verbatim, which is how we want it, sometimes they come off a little robotic. Whereas as soon as you say, I want you to do it how you do it, you can kind of see their shoulders drop. And just like Zoe mentioned, and you know what, then we learn a few things from them as well. As long as they're keeping the core values behind it, they have the most practice, right? So it's just, you have to find different comfort levels with different business managers and see what works best for them.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I think, getting that individual that you're training or developing to find their tonality, their comfort place where they can have a conversation. I've been talking actually to a lot of trainers right now, and because so much of their training efforts are done via video, that they're getting to that place of being comfortable with uncomfortable a lot faster. Because it kind of seems like, well, I'm not in the same place. I'm not in the same building. I'm on this device. And it's like, it seems like they're getting faster. They're just getting to that natural tonality, but faster. But I agree with you. It's like, it's cool sometimes to be a little robotic so that we can nail down those 6 or 7
Absolutely.
points that we have to get. But at the end of the day, we have to get them to find that natural tone that they feel comfortable so that they can consistently execute it, right? If we're asking them to execute it, no, it's got to be done this way every single time, no ifs, ands, buts about it. That's where I find people really they pull back into themselves and they don't really want to absorb the training or development efforts that we're putting into them. Now, my next question for you guys is like ongoing training. You know, I see some training programs out there that kind of swoop in, you know, and then they kind of swoop back out, you know, and it's once a quarter or once a year. Actually, I just talked to a dealer principal the other day, asked him if I can come in and do one of our strategy sessions. And he's like, no, Jay, we're doing our annual training. Like, annual? Really? Like, do you do this annual? So I'm curious with you guys, because I understand you guys do this monthly, right?
Yes.
So what are some of the benefits you see with your ongoing monthly visits versus this kind of swoop in, swoop out? Zoe, I'll start with you, and then Kendall, I'll ask you the same question.
Well, with the ongoing training, it's holding our business managers accountable, right? So we're setting goals, expectations, as well with them. And with the ongoing monthly visits, and sometimes it's more than monthly. So sometimes it could be multiple times. It depends on how much that person needs us, or we feel that they need a little bit more tweaking or work, or their new business manager, right? So, and they look for us and hang on to us for that support. But with the ongoing monthly visits, I also feel that the business managers are like, they're wanting us to come. There's some that do avoid us, don't get me wrong, but they're looking for us, because I actually have my business managers keep a log of rebuttals and no's and roadblocks that they are doing with their customers, because some of them are repetitive. And I say, you write down what you're wanting from me today. And I will always ask that when we go in there. I set a timeline, the expectations of what's today we're going to work on, so they know what is expected of them. So, but the writing the book thing down is amazing, because there's a constant same issue where we can pair it up of how to deal with that situation. There's so many different scenarios out there, as we were talking about role playing earlier, is we're always learning, well, I've never heard of that one before. I had a customer say that they had a severe migraine and a toothache, and they just got up and walked out of the office. It's like, okay then, and they never came back. It was like, what just happened here, right? So there's all these weird scenarios, and it's a car business, right? So nothing is never unheard of.
Oh, okay, so that's cool, Zoe. Kendall, for yourself, what are some of the benefits you see with that ongoing, monthly visit versus that in and out, fly in, fly out type concept?
So Zoe absolutely nailed it with accountability, both on our end and on the business office with our business managers as well. If we're showing up every month, whether it's on the same day, the third Thursday of the month, they know that we're coming. They're ready for us. They're prepared. So accountability is definitely the biggest thing. The other thing that I find super beneficial is just staying informed with everything going on. So whether we have set homework with our previous development day, and now we're coming in and following up with them on some goals we may have set, and even just knowing what's going on in the industry. Because as you know, within car dealerships, there's always things changing, whether there's something with OMVIC or the banks and who's buying what deals right now and those types of things, because that's information that we can share with our other stores, and it also keeps us informed. So definitely accountability, setting goals, and of course the biggest one is areas of opportunity. So with us being in the store on a monthly basis, we're able to see, okay, well, we can work on this, and it's going to increase both your average and your products per deal. So, and again, then we hold them to that for the next visit. So there's definitely quite a few things. That's our answers are very similar, Zoe and I.
With today, there's so much importance of building the relationship. And I find that the faster that we can connect and create that relationship with the person or the team that we're training or developing, that's when things really get sticky. If a trainer just kind of comes in and stands at the front of the classroom and just says, boom, 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 and doesn't really take the time to connect, then I find that training it lasts for a few days and then just kind of falls to the wayside, So I'm curious for you guys, and Zoe, I'll ask you first, then Kendall, I'll ask you the same questions. Like, how do you build trust with your stores, and how do you build that stronger relationship?
Great question, Jason. I think the biggest thing is letting the dealers know we've done the job. Doing the job. We've all been in that position before, being in the business and how long we all have been in there before. We've seen all varies of things happen, but letting them know we can actually do it. And by showing the business managers as well that we can actually build their trust for showing them how to take a show me's like Kendel mentioned before and doing the actual deals for their clients. And then they're like, wow, that's amazing. They learn from us and they know we're not, some young girls, just coming in and telling them to be demanding and saying, you got to do this and this and this structure. It's also setting the goals for them for success, right? And we want to see that we pump them up constantly to let them know you can do this, right? Like, let's set your goals. What do you want from us as being your district manager, right? How can we achieve those together? And doing that with the dealer principal as well, too, is like, what are you looking for us from today's visit, right? Is there something that you see that we haven't seen? Because we're not in the stores 24/7. Mind you, we're available 24/7. So.
No, but I think that's key, that if you're going to build that relationship, with the intent of getting that knowledge to stick more, is really kind of setting out those expectations for both parties, right? Like it's identifying, from the dealership's perspective, what's the expectation from me as the trainer or the developer, but then also setting the same expectation going backwards, saying like, look, if you want this to work, here's our expectations of you, right? Now that it's totally clear, we can work together to meet those expectations. And that's where you find that synergy, that center point, right? Kendel, for yourself, individually, how do you build kind of that trust with the store and get to that point where you can have a stronger relationship?
Definitely, I think consistency is huge. Not only for our business managers, but for our dealers, knowing, like Zoe said, that we're always there. It's not we're in the store once a month and then you're not going to see or hear from us again. It's if you want to call us 6-7 times a day, and if you need us to come back into the store, we're going to do it as long as it fits the schedule, right? So, perfect example is there's an emergency in a store and the business manager can't be there. They're going to call us and say, hey, can you come fill in for 2 days? As long as it's not a long-term assignment. And of course, if we have the flexibility in our schedule, we're going to do it. So, and that goes with, being able to talk the talk. We can go in, take the turnover, print the paperwork, and get the car ready for delivery. So, and on the other side of that, at let's say the end of the month, when we all know it's mayhem in stores, reaching out to our business managers and saying, hey, what do you need help with? Do you need me to come in and help you print paperwork? Do you need me to come in and help you take turnovers? Whatever the case is. So as much as we have a training side to us, of course, we are also that helpful hand, both for the business office and for the management team. So it's just being able to be there for them in whatever capacity they need and being able to do it well. So I think that's a huge thing for building trust, right? Like, oh, what do you mean you can enter a deal into Dealer Track and get everything to match and print the paperwork, right? I know those sound like small things, but that's huge. And when a business manager can see that you can not only take a turnover and sell product, but then actually see the deal through from start to finish, it really adds a lot of value to what we do.
Well, I think that says a lot about you as a vendor, I mean, look, I get this question asked a lot, through relationship selling, is how do you get to that point where you can create that trust factor? And, I find the fastest way to do that is don't just meet the customer's expectations. You need to exceed those customers' expectations. And it's in that space between meeting and exceeding where I find the trust really kind of kicks in. I mean, when I had my store, crap, I wish I had you guys come in and do the training, because I tell you right now, I don't think I ever had a vendor out of the, tens and tens of different vendors I used, ever say, hey, Jay, if you ever need help on, on a weekend, call me, I'll come in. I don't think I've ever, I've never had that offered. So I think that says a lot about how you're not just meeting those dealerships' expectations in the training and development, but you're really willing to go above and beyond, as long as the schedule kind of allows you to, is to exceed those expectations. I applaud you guys for that. That's actually really super cool. And if I was back in that seat again, I'd probably take you up on it pretty darn fast. So kind of with that said, though, I am kind of curious though, like what is a typical development training day, look like for you? I mean, Zoe, I'll ask you, and then Kendel, I'll ask you the same question. What does that day look like for you, Zoe?
Absolutely. So what we do is we first, try and sit with the dealer principal, right, to review any concerns or issues that he might have going forward, or areas that he feels there's a need for. After we review what we think we need to do with the dealer, then we go into the business office, as again, we set their goals, expectations of what our plan is for the day. There should always be a plan of what we should do. Yes, does the plan go skewed, and do we have to be prepared for that? 110%, because there's interruptions constantly, right? So we do the best to stick to our plan, but again, once we go through that, so role playing with them, taking turnovers, like Kendel said, helping with paperwork. Man, there's been times that I've just pushed the business manager out of her chair and said, let me just sit in your chair and do it, right? Like, she's frustrated, like Kendel said, trying to do paperwork, can't get things to match. And, and they're so grateful, or, insurance truncation and things like that is like, oh, it's not matching it with our Dave portal and that. And it could be just one slight thing that a second set of eyes is great to have. So after that, we hold sales meetings. It's constantly not only training the business managers, but, I have a particular store. It's just reminders, right? You sit with every salesperson, how are you liking this? Are you getting what you need out of it from the finance office? Setting the expectations for the sales team to be able to properly turn over their deals to the F&I office. That's a huge part of what we do as well, along with, as Kendel mentioned, we are available, and you said that, we can go in on Saturday morning meetings when they have their big rah-rahs, and we're included in it. And to get them pumped and motivated, just a reminder, right? Just a fresh new face to come in, so they're not hearing the same thing from, everybody else that sounds like a broken record. And it's like letting us get them pumped and motivated as well, which gets us excited too, right? So everyone needs that motivation on a Saturday morning meeting, and let's go sell some cars, right? So our typical training, it varies so often, but it's pretty structured of how we do things.
I think that's super cool. I mean, I think getting right into the thick of it, getting into the dirt, and really treating the F&I department as a holistic approach to the sell. I hate to say it, but as an industry, we're pretty successful about silo creating. We're creating silos in our business. It's like you have the F&I department, and then you have the sales team, and then you have the service team, and then you have the parts team. And if they weren't under one roof, they would probably be at each other's throats. I mean, the F&I manager, doesn't typically like the salespeople. The salespeople doesn't like the F&I manager. The used car manager wants to punch the service manager, but I think it's super cool. I mean, it's true, right? You've seen that happen. I know I have.
It is true. Yeah, no, it's true.
But it's cool that you guys take that approach, that this is not this, last kick at the can, which I hate to say it, but most dealerships treat F&I as the last kick of the can to make a little more money, right? And, by bringing in that sales team, then you're taking F&I and you're creating kind of a holistic approach to it. It's not just something that happens at the end. It's got to happen in the beginning, and it has to happen somewhere kind of in between, and then it also kind of happens at the end. And I find that's what the dealerships that execute that are really truly successful with their F&I efforts. And I'm sure you guys probably see the exact same thing. Kendel, for yourself, what does that typical day of development look like for you?
It does vary. I think Zoe mentioned that we generally have a plan going in. So, we check our report from the month before to see what kind of homework we assigned in areas of opportunities. But as we all know, walking into a dealership, things can blow up extremely quickly. So you may have a plan, but we need to be flexible. But there's definitely the basics that always need to happen. So each department gets a visit. So you're going to go to accounting, you're going to go to parts, you're going to go to service. Of course, always sit down with the sales managers and or the dealer principal if you get the chance, just to, talk to them, see if they're seeing anything that they want you to touch on. And I mean, the best kind of development day for us is turnovers. So if we walk in and there's 4 or 5 turnovers that day, you can bet we're going to be sitting in on them and or taking them with our business managers shadowing us. So yeah, there's definitely basics that we always need to stick to. The one thing that we find very beneficial is doing deal audits. So if we have an hour or two to ourselves, if it's a lunch break or whatever the case is, we can go up and ask to go through, 10 deals each from each business manager. Because they're going to tell you they're doing their menu, their disclosure, and their visual closes, but, the proof is in their actual files. So we just tend to make notes of what we're seeing and what we're not seeing. Try to talk to them about the positive first, and then, of course, the areas of opportunities. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of things we try to accomplish in one day, but of course, there's always those top 3 or 4 that you need to make sure you get done.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think that makes a big difference when you kind of take from, that approach to, to a day. But I find that with training, it's that ongoing conversation, like I've been through a bunch of different training programs, and I feel like when you kind of go in, like the energy levels go up, right? Like they skyrocket. And, I find the employees for the first week or so are kind of riding on that cloud 9. And then I kind of see it progressively start to just kind of get back to where it is kind of normal. And I find that the key of that is kind of the, that contact with that business manager or that dealership. And, it's not just the once a month visit. It's, how do you I'm curious for you guys, are you in contact with the dealership on a regular basis, and what does that look like? Zoe, I'll start with you.
100%. Our phone doesn't stop, whether it's not just a 9 to 5 job, Jason, like it's all the time. I've had a call at midnight. I've had, 1 o'clock in the morning that they just had too many wobbly pops and they just wanted to reach out to say, hey, right? So it's all constant, whether it's phone, but we also, reach out to them more several times on a month too, right? So we're going through the menus in our portal, our Dave system, as well as, and we're sending them positive vibes. I know Kendel and I both do this quite often, and they get a great deal in a home run or whatever the case may be. And we'll say, great job. Is that a good deal? Or they'll bounce ideas, whether it is or it isn't, right? So them knowing that we just don't walk out of the store and that's it. We'll see you in a month and you never hear from us again. But the constant contact with them with, emails, phone, it doesn't matter. I've had business managers that call me on a Saturday and a Sunday as well too, right? And joke with you, oh, I'm shocked you actually answered. And I'm like, well, it's because I like you. That's why, but, it's having that rapport that they know they can count on us, because trust us, we've all been in the business, and there's many times that you have, your reps and stuff that you just can't get a hold of. Yes, we do get busy and we'll get back to them in a timely manner. But the fact is that we have, expectations of ourselves that we need to get back to that store within, a few hours. If we go on vacation, we have a timeline on our, Outlook that, we've stepped out of the office, but they can always get someone a hold of us in our team, our zone, our head office. We're all available anytime.
I think it's really cool that you guys kind of create that team effort. I mean, you're coaching. And which actually, I think for a lot of programs that I've been through and I've had the opportunity to consume, it's actually one of the lacking points. It's like, we'll do the training. So we train on the activities required to get to the results that we want to get to, right? Then we'll develop the individual, all right, in those activities so that they can execute at a higher level and that our ratios continue to increase. But then I find that coaching element, that high five, way to go, hey, don't worry, that one didn't quite go the way you wanted, but hey, there's another one coming. It's like that coaching element I think is missed in a lot of programs. So I'm so excited to hear that that's kind of just a normal part of what you guys do. I mean, Kendel, I'm kind of curious for you, is it similar to Zoe? Do you kind of have that same type of contact with the business managers and the dealers?
Absolutely. Like I mentioned earlier, her and I work very similar to each other. And it gets to the point where when we're checking in with them, on an every other night, every 3 days basis, sending them screenshots of a deal they took, whether we're saying like, hey, great job, or, hey, I noticed you didn't offer life insurance to this customer and they were eligible. It just goes to show that we are out there and watching, but it gets to the point whereas if we don't email them quick enough with a great deal, they're sending us a text saying, hey, did you see that deal? Why haven't you emailed me yet? So that definitely makes you smile and knows that your relationship is there with them. Because, and the other side of that too, is if you do look at, they had 4 deals one day and they didn't sell any product on any of them, just reaching out to say, hey, it looks like you had a tough day. Don't forget to keep your head up tomorrow. It's going to come back, read your book, go back to basics, that kind of thing. So yeah, there's a huge coaching aspect to it. And, sometimes, lightly telling them that they did something incorrectly or that they should try a different way, they also do appreciate. So yes, definitely checking their deals and checking in with the dealer as well. If we see something, a pattern happening throughout the month, checking in with them midway through the month to say, hey, I'm noticing this is going on. I'd like to come in and have a quick meeting before we get to the end of the month and the whole month is blown. Right? So it's, of course, we do speak with our business managers much more, but we also have that relationship with our dealer principals and our sales managers to say, hey, let's nip this in the bud before it becomes a bigger deal than it already is.
And that kind of goes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier. It's just that accountability, right? I mean, look, a good coach, should be able to say, hey, man, you knocked that out of the park, maybe even better than I could have. That was amazing. But at the same time, the good coach should also be able to feed up some positive criticism in a way that it comes out of like, hey, you screwed that one up. What the hell are you doing? Get back in there and do it again. No, but it should be in a way of like, hey, there's an opportunity with every failure. Let's take a look at that opportunity. And I find, good coaches naturally do that. So it's awesome that you guys take that approach. Now, I do training and consulting, for dealerships on their operations level. And boy, I will tell you this, being able to communicate via video like this has changed that so much. Before I was a road warrior. I did 8,000 kilometers a month, but I was only able to do kind of so much at a time, right? Now, because everyone is so comfortable communicating and engaging in this type of format, I feel like I'm just way more slammed and busy than I ever been for you, beforehand. So I'm actually kind of curious for you guys, like, is this kind of the same thing for you as a trainer? What is your training schedule, look like for you? Zoe, I'm curious to from you, and then Kendel, I'll ask you the same question.
Well, it can be all over the place at times. I'm a very structured person, so I always like to know what's going on, what's happening. I'm very like all my ducks in a row. But again, with all the COVID-19 and everything that's going on right now, it can be tough, right? Because I do have a couple of stores that they're not comfortable with us coming in yet. So where this training of through the Zoom, FaceTime, whatever apps that also we all feel comfortable with, which is, our team, we all feel comfortable with Zoom. We've been doing meetings throughout this whole duration, every day almost. So we're good there. But, the other aspect of certain business managers, may, technology, they may not be up. So, we walk them through that process, not a problem, or on the telephone. So even though some stores may not want us there, we're still there. And it's amazing aspect that we're all using this technology as well too. So majority of everybody has a cell phone. So all our business managers, everybody we know has a cell phone. So there's a way that you can contact through video or showing them, or, when they call us too, right? I had a business manager that couldn't get their insurances on their DMS system to match. I said, show me your screen. right? Go on live. Let's walk through it together. It's a particular store that I can't physically be in there, but it's okay. And we'll walk through it together, right? So that is huge. It's huge.
It is. You know what? As an industry, we've had to adapt to technology faster in the last 3 months than we probably have in the last 30 years combined. But I do applaud our industry, because I think as an industry, we've actually done a pretty darn good job of adopting that, not just, for our staff, but also for our customers as well. I mean, Kendel, I'm curious for you, as a trainer, because I know we're all real busy right now, what does this schedule look like for you?
Absolutely. So, I mean, pre-COVID, we'll start there. Generally, I try to build my schedule. So half of my stores I have on the exact same day of the month, every month. So whatever, it's the third Wednesday, second Tuesday. And then the other 50% I kind of keep open just in case something comes up, like, hey, we need you to do a 2-day fill-in, or hey, you need to go to this store for an emergency or something like that. Again, it's just that whole being flexible type thing, and knowing that you could wake up in the morning and your day could completely change. So as structured as we all like to be, we also have to be able to, just go with what comes thrown at us. With COVID hitting, definitely the virtual side of things definitely opened up a lot of windows for us. I mean, I can even say that I had a good 12 business managers that were actually laid off during COVID, but still came on a Zoom call with me once a week. And we would do some training for an hour. So it just goes to show that they were continuously looking to learn more and not get, stuck being at home, not doing anything, right? Because you get a little bit stale when you're not practicing. So that was really awesome. And again, like Zoe said, for some of them, it was a bit more difficult to get them on, but we were just patient and we got them on. And then once we finished the training session, they loved it. So yeah, and it's nice to be able to do check-ins. We can just do virtual check-ins now versus having to be in the stores. Our stores are pretty good with us coming back in now. They want the training, they want the development, but we're still in a pandemic. So we still have to tread lightly and still get the job done. So it's definitely different.
I have seen, during the pandemic is the cream really does rise to the top. You know what I mean? And I'm sure you guys are seeing it as well through your training and coaching. I know I've seen it through mine is the people that are really leaning in and engaging versus the ones that just kind of sat back, put their heads in the sand and just went la 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 until this whole thing is over, right? And I think for a lot of dealerships out there, they're beginning to see that. They're looking at their team, and they've over the past few months really started to identify certain team members that maybe they didn't know before, but really stepped it up and just jumped up and said, whatever needs to be done, I'll be doing it. You know what? I may be at home, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stop my development efforts. I'm going to continue to develop. So that is really cool. And you're right. I mean, Zoe, you're right. This technology, it's allowed us to be able to do that. Oh gosh, guys, I know it's getting towards the end of our time today. I'm sure we could probably jam about this a bit longer.
Hours.
I know, right?
Hours, yes.
This is what happens when you
absolutely.
get a bunch of trainers, in the same room. We
Yeah.
can just keep chatting forever. But you know what? I do have one more question though before I let you go, and it's my favorite question. So, and I prepped you guys before we started this, so I had big expectations.
No pressure.
No pressure at all, right? But Zoe, I'll start with you. All right. If you could change one thing in our industry, all right, what would it be and why?
Okay, so that's a huge question. But with me and what I've done is I would love to have everybody who works in the dealership do each other's job. And the reason being is I learned a lot from working in different departments and understanding the background of why we do what we do. So, there's a reason why accounting needs, the finance office to match their numbers. There's a reason why service department needs the work orders to be correct when a business manager sends it out. So if there's a reason why, the big chief at the top, needs increase of volume, whether it's, for per vehicle average. And so to, put the lights on in the store so we all have a job. So I would wish that we could all shadow each other in the different sectors of a or not just the finance office and the whole dealership atmosphere, and for the communication of it all, to understand why everyone does each other's job.
No, I think that's totally right. I mean, I think going through that experience, right? I mean, I did that, before I became a dealer principal. I intentionally took, pay cuts sometimes just so that I could work at different aspects of the business, because I knew what my ultimate goal and objective was, right? But man, that opened up my eyes from an operations perspective in a huge way of, why someone was always upset about this particular thing, or why they needed this document, and why that document didn't match this other document. So no, I'm with you, Zoe. I think that'd be really helpful. In fact, I do know some dealerships and actually some dealer groups that do participate in kind of that methodology of when they bring someone in, they try to get that person to kind of work multiple positions, so they get a good feeling, for what everyone's having to go through. That's a great one, Zoe. All right, Kendel, you're up here. If you could change one thing in our industry, what would it be and why?
So I'm sure you've heard one very much like this, but I would just like to change the reputation behind the business office and the stigma that's attached to it. So many times we often hear when the salesperson's giving us the 2-minute drill before a turnover, oh, they already said they don't want to come in here and they don't want to buy anything and they never buy anything in there and this and that. And I think, even speaking to family and friends about it, I often say, well, what are we selling there? And they don't know, right? So it's such an educational, as much as, yes, we are selling, there's so much education behind it and the products that we offer and why we offer them and how they can protect the customers. But unfortunately, I do believe that some customers go in there not wanting to hear anything. So they're not actually listening to what the business manager is offering. So therefore it's an automatic no, when really it could benefit them. So I just wish we could take the stigma away from, going into the box is the term that we always hear.
Well, that's probably one of the reasons why there's a stigma. Why the hell do we call it a box?
Exactly. Like it sounds frightening, right? So that's my biggest thing, because I think if we could make it a happier place, we would get more customers actually listening and understanding what we're offering, and, maybe even be able to sell a little bit more.
No, I'm 100% with you on this. There is a big stigma, and look, as an industry, it's the way we treated the F&I department, right? We kind of talked about it a little earlier on, how we for the longest time we treated the F&I department as the last kick of the can, to increase the profitability of every transaction. But, I'm sure you guys have seen this, and I know I've seen this, is that the most successful dealerships out there with F&I, take that more holistic approach, kind of the way you guys are training and developing, is that, this is not something that, isn't at the end, kick of the can or whatever. It's something that gets injected throughout the entire sales process. And I find the dealerships that don't treat the F&I department as a silo, but really as collective effort with the sales team, those are the ones where the customer will feel it as well, right? It's just like, this is a part of the entire transaction, is, the protecting this large purchase that I'm ultimately going to be buying. But when we leave it at the end, and it feels so disconnected, and it's like you're bouncing around a lot. I mean, think about it. The customer right now has to deal with almost like 4 different people before they make a purchase, right? You have the BDC person, the internet person, and then you got the salesperson, then you got the sales manager, and then you got the F&I manager, and that's a lot, and we know through relationship selling is how we make those connections. But when you're trying to create that many relationships with that many people, I think something's got to give. You can tell, Kendel, I'm totally on par with you on this one. It kind of gets to me a little bit. I'm just like, no, I'm with you. We got to change that stigma for sure. Well, ladies, thank you so much for taking the time to jam with me today. This has been a ton of fun. But before I let you go, though, for everyone out there that's listening, watching right now, and would love to connect with you and kind of follow along and learn more about what you guys do, what is the best way to do so? Zoe, I'll start with you.
Best way to contact me would be zoe.anthony@sym-tech.ca, or my work cell phone number at 416-550-6967.
Awesome. I love when people put their cell phone numbers out there. I mean, you want to talk about confidence. It's like, yeah, just give me a call.
Call me.
Perfect.
I'm here for you.
Hey, Kendel, for yourself, what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, so same as Zoe. I mean, you can definitely reach me by email, which is kendel.bielby@sym-tech.ca. Cell phone as well, if you'd like, 1-647-393-6469. And then, of course, LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn, so shoot me a message on there, and I'll definitely get back to you.
Awesome. Hey, ladies, thank you so much for jamming with me today. This has been a ton of fun. You guys have yourself an amazing day.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.